2017, the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Pennsylvania hosted a two-night VHS horror festival. Video Violence and Video Violence 2 were screened. They converted the concession stand into a convention hall. Josh Schaefer produced a commemorative button based on the Video Violence VHS cover art. Lots of fans of SOV horror films attended. Gary P. Cohen filmed a welcome video for the occasion. Good evening. My name's Gary Cohen, and I am the director of Video Violence, as well as Video Violence 2 and Captives. And I can't tell you what a thrill it is to have Video Violence play in a drive-in movie. I want to thank Mahoning Drive-In, I want to thank Josh Schaefer, I want to thank Camp Video for putting this together, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. I am in the midst of making a documentary called Video Violence, the SOV That Wouldn't Die. And basically, it's not about making video violence or why I made video violence. It's about why video violence has remained alive for 30 years. And the fact that 30 years later it's being shown in a drive-in is going to be the perfect finale for the film. Every couple of weeks, it seems, I get a text message or an email or someone messages me through Facebook to tell me that they're a fan of Video Violence, that I influenced them in some way, how much they love the movies, and it just knocks me out. For this to still be kicking after 30 years is quite something, and it's because of you folks, because of the fans. So look for Video Violence, the SOV That Wouldn't Die, on Facebook or YouTube or somewhere in the next coming months, or Josh will put it out on DVD. But most important, thank you for supporting the film, and have a great time watching it on the big drive-in screen and the tiny little speakers. Thanks.
I've probably seen the movie over 10 times. It's a classic. I find new things to admire each time. So like, at first I was just like, wow, this gore and like this special effects are really good. But when you break down to like the storyline and the character choice, like all the actors fit everything perfectly. Nothing seems out of place. The sequel is almost better than the original because they did something different that not a lot of horror movies did. He took it and had the same characters and everything, and instead of just making another movie exactly same like the original, he changed the format of it, which I think with Video Violence, when it's about cheap thrills and like getting your fix kind of with the genre, he took it and just amped it up to another level.
It's funny because like you always hear about video violence, you know what I mean? Like you're flipping through horror magazines, your own websites, and it always comes up. And the shot on video family is like one of the great ones. And that's the reason I came here tonight. Actually, is a big part of it is the double feature of Video Violence. I was actually really excited to see it, you know, because it's one of those infamous ones. You know? So and I loved it, honestly. I thought it was fantastic. Just I love the cold opening. I love the characters. Like I came in with fairly low expectations, and it kind of blew me away, honestly.
I think Video Violence is probably should be required viewing, I think, for anyone who really wants an understanding of what shot on video really means. You know, I think that's a term that's thrown around a lot, like a shot on video movie. And I think that Video Violence is almost the quintessential shot on video movie, as far as like from a standpoint of, you know, if you want to learn something about what a shot on video movie looks like and feels like, and especially when that terminology is thrown around, I think Video Violence is a perfect example of that.
Right. Yeah, Video Violence, it was amazing, man. I mean, I've seen it a bunch of times, but it never gets old. I mean, every time you watch it, it just gets better and better and better. I mean, everything they do in it is just amazing. And for what they had and what they've done with it, it's just incredible. It's a great film.
The year was 1987. Video stores ruled, and VHS was king. VHS came before Laserdiscs, DVDs, Blu-ray, and streaming. It changed home entertainment. And during this historic time, a little SOV horror film was created by an amateur filmmaker who owned a video store. It was called 30 years later, this SOV, along with Video Violence 2 and Captives, are still alive and well. Why have they remained so popular?
I don't think I can think of another title that has as much of a staying power as Video Violence. This is a movie that cannot be killed.
Video Violence, the first 30 years in 3.5 minutes. 1987. Camp Video releases Video Violence on VHS in a large box with original art. Later in 1987, Camp re-releases Video Violence in a smaller conventional box, adding a sticker from the American Film Institute. Also in 1987, Majestic Home Video releases Captives but renames it Mama's Home, re-edits it, and adds misleading cover art. 1988. Camp Video releases Video Violence 2 on VHS with their original cover art. 1995. Killing for Culture is published, a scholarly book with a section on video violence. 1995. Video Violence is listed. 2007. The old Camp Video becomes the new Camp Motion Pictures. Also, in 2007, Camp Motion Pictures releases Video Violence and Video Violence 2 on DVD, remastered. 2008. The DVD of Video Violence 1 and 2 is offered for sale for the first time in big chain stores such as Virgin Records and Best Buy. 2009. Portable Grindhouse, a book about the lost art of VHS boxes, features Video Violence on page 12. 2011. Camp releases Captives, as it was intended, in a box set with Video Violence 1 and 2 and 2 other SOVs. 2012. First screening in a movie theater. 2013. Josh Schaefer releases the Videovore edition. Both films on 2 red VHS tapes with the DVD of Video Violence Redux, the director's cut, a t-shirt, a poster, and a video studio membership card. And throughout the years, Video Violence has been sold and shown at horror conventions. Video Violence has had many screenings in boutique movie theaters, including one in a basement. And most recently, both films can be streamed on Amazon and on Shudder, an internet horror channel. And coming in 2017 on red vinyl, the original soundtrack LP. The 2007 restoration.
So back in the early 2000s, not too early, probably around 2003, 2004, I get a call at my office from Gary Cohen, who says, "Hey, I'm Gary Cohen and I directed Video Violence, Video Violence 2, and Captives, would you be interested in putting these films out? So Gary Cohen visited my office, pitched the idea of just giving me these films with the request of any merchandise that comes out. Can I please get a copy on DVD? If there's a poster, I'd like a poster. Whatever there is, I need a copy of it. I said, great. He brought boxes over, and they were huge boxes. These are big boxes with big, beefy tapes. I'm talking about, like, you know, crazy size tapes that, you know, in today's day and age, you wouldn't know what to think. Gary brought these huge boxes into my office, and I remember exactly where I put them. I put them in a phone room. It's where like a fax machine was and all the phone lines, and they sat to the point where they collected dust. I mean, they sat and they sat and they sat. Eventually, I hired a young man named Joseph Kolbeck, and this was a kid who lived for crazy cult movies. Boy, do I have a project for you. And we went into that phone room, dusted off those boxes, and we started inventorying what we had. Camera original tapes. These are the tapes that Gary shot on set that were eventually edited down to a final master. We can go back to Gary's camera original tapes and encode those and then reassemble the entire movie from scratch using that crappy VHS just as a template, as a model of what the film was supposed to be.
So we had to transfer the 3/4 inch footage to mini DV, and then from mini DV it had to be imported into the system. Actually cutting the project was a very primitive process. There was no time code, so I had to locate the footage manually, and then I had to match frame just by eye. I had an edited source coming from, you know, one of the tape sources that were available, a finished master, and I had to look at the raw footage, go through the raw footage, and I had to find the exact frame, match that frame up with what Gary had cut, and then I had to thread it along and then cut where Gary had cut, and I had to do this for literally every shot. It was a tedious process, and in the case of Video Violence 2, it was discouraging because much of the footage is no longer extant.
But it took a really long time, and when we were done, we had the movie like it's never been seen before. So if you see Video Violence on Amazon streaming or on DVD today, that is the best quality that it has ever been.
We're here to review Video Violence 1 and 2.
Video Violence 1 and 2 is about a crazy town that enjoys slasher films so much that they decided to make their own. Now boys, how do you like Video Violence?
I liked the 80s nostalgic feel it had.
Absolutely.
Video Violence 1. Young couple trying to make it in this crazy town of, I believe, Jersey. They're going through life, and all of a sudden, a video comes to their door. It was a murder of a postmaster. And before you know it, little Ricky, the video store clerk, is murdered. And the owner of a store is unraveling a murder that goes all the way to the sheriff's office.
Probably one of the classiest of classiest sheriffs I've ever seen, and very stereotypical to the knee slap and yeehaw Texas sheriff.
And don't forget the hat.
We'll never forget the hat.
Probably one of the most exciting highlights throughout this entire series of both Video Violence 1 and 2 is the Howard and Eli show.
Here's Eli! Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Eli Show, brought to you from our basement collection. Good, good. You look real good, Eli. Thanks, Howard.
The two of them clearly made Video Violence. In the first one, we see them as these, like, underground killers and we don't know much about them, and they just want to record snuff. And when they do it, it's epic in every single way possible, on screen, really cool practical effects. But the second one takes it to a whole new extreme where they're a talk show and on cable television of all things. And that's where the humor comes in.
Let's not forget the epic soundtrack. It was all over the place, but it was awesome. The amount of videos in this movie was insane. They had thousands on shelves all over the store.
Don't be ridiculous. They had hundreds. But you're not here for the videos. You're here for the violence!
Well, Trav, the first video violence had a nice story, some solid character development, and we got introduced to Eli and Howard, who are awesome. So I'm gonna give Video Violence 1 3 pounds of hand out of 5. Now for Video Violence 2, we got to see 2 of my favorite characters from the first movie. I really appreciated Eli and Howard. They also had a lot more gore in it, and that's a-okay with me. So I'm giving Video Violence 2 4 fake-out face-offs out of 5.
Thanks, Jay. The first film, it had the killing. It didn't have as much as we would have liked, but, you know, it was gorier than I actually thought it was going to be, and at the time, I'm sure it was pretty disturbing. The characters played their parts well. There was a good mystery to be solved, and Eli and Howard, they inspire us. So I'm going to give Video Violence 1 3 head soups out of 5. Now, Video Violence 2, they up their game. It gets bloodier. It gets funnier. So I'm gonna give Video Violence 2 3 doing J's out of 5.
Video Violence 1. You had a really unique story, and I liked how you presented yourself. You took the whole found footage, mystery genre to a different level that not many people have done before. And it delivered through Howard and Eli. So with that being said, I'm going to give Video Violence 1 3 vampires searching for love out of 5. Now on to Video Violence 2. This had a completely different format, but it delivered. It was fantastic. The whole news broadcast was hilarious, but they kept that cool gore and kill scenes that were really epic from the first one. So that being said, I'm going to give Video Violence 2 4 vampires seeking for love sequels out of 5.
The film's entirely shot on video, and I particularly like that. Some people may not like that, but I really liked it because it reminded me when I was younger and I had an old 80s video camera, and I used to shoot a lot of short films on it, and this had the same exact picture quality of those short films that I used to make. The soundtrack is it's like all 80s synthetic music that's just made for the film. They're not like actual songs or anything else. They were just directly made for the movie, and I really kind of liked them. And if you notice in the beginning credit sequence, you hear it there. It's a really sort of catchy song. It's a little you can tell it's they didn't have a big budget to make it, but overall I really like the soundtrack, the synthetic sound of it. Okay, overall I would give the film 6 out of 10 blood splats. I thought the story was fairly original, and I really did like it. If you're into 80s B movies, 80s low budget slasher type films, I would definitely check this one out.
Now, the shot on video film that I enjoyed the most is Video Violence by Gary P. Cohen. It's about a couple that open up a video store in town, and a mysterious video is dropped off through the drop slot, and it's what's on the tape that makes this movie so scary. From there, the fun starts. Excellent kills, tremendous 80s music, and just downright gritty family fun, and well worth a look.
It's about videos, you know, so I think that kind of captures the time, you know, because there's the whole video renting thing, you know, and it's not like just an item, it's like a testament to society, you know, because it's not like something substantial, it's something rented, you know, like cheap thrills. That is just kind of like the whole plot of the movie, you know, the whole idea.
Video Violence, the first movie, this movie is great. I'm going to give it, this is another one of those movies, I'm going to give 3 chainsaws. This is easy. The story is there. There's a really good story behind it. Video Violence 2, not so good. I will give this 1 chainsaw. That's pretty much it. You get disc art, which looks like the cover art, and then you get this, again, with Cam Motion Pictures, they give you like a little 2 or 3 page booklet. You know. Now the extras on this disc, there's only a couple of them. One's a commentary for the first film, and an interview with Gary P. Cohen includes never before seen footage. The interview with Gary P. Cohen is really interesting because he talks about how he got this movie made and what it cost, and what he did between this film and another film called Captives, which probably will never see the light of day.
I was introduced to Video Violence by a local mom-and-pop video store in my hometown, and I found that it had a lot going for it as a movie. So much more than a lot of other shot-on-video horror flicks at the time. Even that opening scene builds a fair amount of suspense. There's some nice long zooms, you know, thinking of it from a videographer, I guess. And some really nice little attention to detail. When he grabs the bat while the girl is in the changing room, he's holding it just right so that you can read that it says Thumper on it. There was kind of a fair amount of humor hidden in Video Violence. It wasn't just a simple gore movie. It actually had a story, and that story sucked you in, and you were there till the end. Video Violence was an incredibly clever idea when you think about it. It's basically setting a gory movie in the setting of a video store where a lot of the patrons rent gory movies. Basically, Video Violence itself would end up on the shelves of an independent video store, being a gory movie for people who love to rent gory movies. It's almost self-fulfilling prophecy that it would be as successful as it's been.
I remember going to a horror convention and running into William Butler from Friday the 13th Part 7 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. At the time I was wearing my Video Violence t-shirt, and while we were talking he looks at it and asks, "You've seen Video Violence?" And after I told him yeah, we got into a whole conversation, and he's seen the film, he loves it, and he told me that he was really happy that a lot of younger audiences are watching these films and appreciating them for what they are. My favorite scene in Video Violence by far has to be the scene in the video store with the mother and her child, and she brings up a tape to the counter and asks for the rating. The owner tells her rated R, and she asks, "Is that for any nudity?" And he doubts that there's any nudity and just assumes that it's all violence. And once she hears that, she says, "Okay, no problem, then my kids can watch it tonight." That scene always made me think of my youth because, for the most part, I can get away with watching movies with a lot of violence and gore, but if it included any nudity or sexual content of any sort, then I would immediately be restricted from watching it. It always made me think of how normal body parts was taboo, but watching heads getting cut off and bodies being blown up was okay to watch for the most part. I just never understood that as a child.
Captives, aka Mama's Home, has also been reviewed, but the reviewer did not see the film the director created. Majestic Home Video released the film with an out-of-sync soundtrack, poorly re-edited, and with subpar image quality.
Hey guys, it's Paul once again. I'm finally going to review Mama's Home. Now, Mama's Home was released by Majestic Home Video. They only released maybe 4 or 5 movies and they just kind of vanished. Their videos are very hard to find. I've been wanting this one forever. It was on the top of my list, and it only popped up once on eBay in the past 4 or 5 years. Now, look at the artwork. The artwork is great. I love the artwork. It was one of the reasons why I wanted this video so much. The title, well, the original title is Captives, and it was directed by Gary P. Cohen, which we'll go into in a second. They retitled it Mama's Home, and they put some really gruesome artwork on here. Right on the top of the back of the box, it says, "Not a slasher film, but a study in psychological terror with a twist of irony." So, despite the very slasher-esque cover, the back is honest and says, well, we're not a slasher film per se. I just thought that was funny. One of the few boxes that said, okay, so we kind of lied to you on the front. We're actually not a slasher movie. And it's not by any means. Even when Majestic Home Video redid the opening title sequence, they had made mistakes. I mean, it is so amateur. It's like they had one of those, back in the 80s you could buy a character generator for your VCR. Just hook it up to the VCR and you could record characters like titles on the screen, and that's pretty much what they did, and you could see mistakes. In the middle of the title shot, there's a, it says Mama's Home obviously, but if you look at the very bottom of the frame, you see Mama's Home again, as if that was a second option, a second font that they could have chosen. And they just kind of left it there. It looks stupid. It's on the very bottom. You can see it. You're supposed to hide that stuff. You're supposed to add some spaces so it's out of the frame. It's a real shame that Majestic Home Video really did butcher this movie. I mean, I would love to see a full version of this movie because I do think it could have some potential as a serious SOV movie. But try to find this movie. It's extremely rare, and if you find it, you're extremely lucky.
Excerpts from some printed reviews of Video Violence. It's a great low-budget movie, surprisingly entertaining. 4 stars, horror gold. Please pick up this DVD. You'll love it. Video Violence is one of the greatest horror movies ever. A must-own for horror buffs. And as of 3 years ago, the film had 4,709 views on YouTube. A fan offered Gary $300 for his VHS copy of Mama's Home. Highest asking price yet on eBay, May 16th, 2017.
I didn't see Video Violence when it first came out. I saw it, I don't know, for the first time probably about 10 years ago. And I mean, it really kind of holds a special place in my mind because on one hand you have like this incredibly gory, awesome violence, but then on the other hand it's kind of like tempered with this like really kind of dark and kind of quirky sense of humor. I mean, it's really awesome. And then like there's kind of like a nostalgia to it now because you can't just go into a mom and pop video store, or like, can you even go into a video store at all anymore? Not here in Iowa.
I think that Video Violence 2 and Captives have remained so popular with fans over the last 30 years because of a great nostalgia for the era in which these films were made, which is the VHS era.
It's an amazing, awesome, cool movie, and the way it was shot was so amazing. Everything about it's amazing. Gary Cohen, the director, did an amazing job. He's a great director. I love his work.
A lot of independent filmmakers get their start from watching movies like Halloween or Dawn of the Dead and other mainstream horror films, but I feel like movies that are shot on video, like Video Violence and Captives and other things in that genre, are much more influential and inspiring than the big Hollywood blockbusters because they give us something attainable rather than something on a pedestal. Today, shot on video films are kind of a form of folk art or a cult phenomenon because you don't see them anymore. Not many people film on tape anymore.
Really, all the things that he's able to accomplish, that Gary can accomplish in this movie, it's sort of mind-blowing, you know, because you wouldn't imagine he got a plot that involves an entire town, which is already kind of an insane feat. I can barely film a scene in a back alley without the cops getting called on me. So his whole story involves all these different characters who are all well-written, well-rounded characters. Even the villains are memorable. Pretty much, it just feels like a real movie. It is just how I feel about this movie. Whenever I think about Video Violence 1 and 2, or I rewatch it, I'm like, I gotta get my camera. I gotta go and make a movie and try and be this good, you know, and it's just incredible.
As far as the longevity of Video Violence is concerned, both Video Violence and Video Violence 2, one thing, I think they were a lot more clever than most shot-on-video movies at the time. Video Violence 2 actually had a lot of humor in it. They really sort of loosened up their format as far as making that movie is concerned. And there was a lot of very funny things. There's certainly a lot of very gory and gross things. But that's part of it, you know. And I think that people almost long for that simplicity again. Also, I don't think film and video makers realize that they're documenting a time and a place, especially independent film and video makers. 20 years from now, you've documented that time and place. Video Violence 1 especially documents the video store of the late 80s. It's something that is missing today, and with the resurgence of interest in VHS, Video Violence stands on top of the mountain.
It's an absolute quintessential shot-on-video horror film, in my humble opinion. You know, I think the artwork and that big box release is a big reason why people are still looking at this film. I mean, just that, you know, the bloody hand going into the VCR, and it's just something that's really spectacular. The film is really self-aware too. You know, I think it knows what it is, and I think it plays off of that and just has, you know, a great time doing it, and you have a great time watching the movie because of that. You know, I got to work with Kent Motion Pictures and create an anniversary edition of Video Violence, the Lunch Meat Die Hard Videovore edition. Gary had put together Video Violence 1 and Video Violence 2 into one film and called it Video Violence Redux, and we kind of threw that in there with it. And what we did is created this set that I was just talking about, and you know, put Video Violence 1 and 2 on red VHS tapes. Got this killer I'm a Lifer t-shirt recreation that, you know, of course comes from the film. This was just a lot of fun. It was like a dream come true to put together. You know, Video Violence is a huge movie for me, and you know, just being able to put it back out there and, you know, put it in some beautiful artwork and, you know, just make it come alive again. You know, it puts it in front of people again, and, you know, it champions it and tells people that this movie's really good and really important and a lot of fun. And, you know, that's what I really wanted to do. Just keep it alive, reanimate it, let people know that this movie is still really rad and inspirational and important.
So, what does the future hold for Video Violence? Where can it possibly go from here? I think that the possibilities are unlimited, really. I imagine the day where someone will have their phone and they'll be able to just bring it up, and from your phone it'll project some kind of holographic big screen where you just set your phone on a table and you could watch on a screen whatever you want. And I think that the film will outlive its creators.
Video violence.
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 And to those who
Video violence.
Video Violence 2.
Video Violence 1 and 2.
Video Violence 1 and Video Violence 2.
And Captives.